There are many things that many of us were taught about purity that didn't just shape our choices, they shaped how we see ourselves. And for a lot of women, these messages did not lead to freedom. They led to pressure, confusion, and a kind of shame that we don't even have the language for. And the hardest part is, a lot of women don't even realize what they're feeling and that it didn't start with them. So today, we're going to have a conversation that most women never have the chance to have space for. Maybe you were one of the girls that did everything right, or you were one of those ones who felt like you totally messed up by one mistake. But either way, this is the underlying feeling so many women carry. They feel like something in them is off, or they're too much, or maybe they're not enough. You followed the rules, or you tried to, and somehow you still ended up feeling confused in your own body, or disconnected, or carrying guilt that you just couldn't quite explain. And no one stopped to ask how that actually affected you. And what's important to understand is this is not just in your head. Research shows that being raised in environments with strong purity messaging is directly linked to higher levels of sexual shame in women. And sexual shame alone accounts for one-third of the difference in women's sexual satisfaction. I even read a fact that said that um 30% of 250 women were that were polled said that they had no idea that they were supposed to enjoy sex, that they were only there to help their husbands to enjoy sex. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So if you ever felt disconnected or anxious or unsure of yourself in this part of your life, that didn't come out of nowhere. For some women, this shows up feeling completely disconnected from your body, like they're not even present. If you're painting your fingernails or the ceiling during sex, this could be you. For others, it's pain that and no desire at all because it just feels safer to shut down that part of your body. A lot of women don't even know they what they want or how to say it because they were never given permission to explore that part of themselves in the first place. We were taught that we as women, our goal is to just make sure it's our goal and our duty to make sure that our husband or our partner is completely taken care of. We don't know how to, like, what do you have my needs? I don't even know that I have needs, right? And underneath it all, there's a quiet fear. Am I too much? Am I doing this wrong? Am I responsible for how someone else responds to me? There's even a study that found that 1 in 5 women raised in strict religious environments experience painful intimacy or significantly higher rates than the general population. And that's not about something being wrong with you. That's about your beliefs and living in your body. So this is something that I learned while doing this series. So your brain shuts down because you get told like purity culture says sex before marriage is bad, sex before marriage is bad, don't have sex, right? And somewhere in your brain that's wired sex equals bad. And so when you get married, you're like, okay, well, Christianity or whatever my religious belief says now it's okay for me to have sex. Your brain still says, is sex is wrong, sex is bad, right? And so it makes sex extremely painful. A lot of people were given messages that stuck even deeper than we realized, right? So there are like the gum analogy. A lot of times in the 90s and the 2000s, youth groups all over America would take a piece of gum and they take it out and they say, okay, well, here's this piece of gum. And it's straight, it's pure, and then they put it in your mouth and chew it up. And now, like, if you have sex before marriage, you are just as bad as this dirty piece of gum. You'll never be that pure again. You'll never be that, smooth piece of gum. The other thing is that they'll take a piece of paper and they'll say, look at this white paper. It's pure and smooth. And then they crumple it up and they say, no matter how many times you smooth that over, you'll never have that white, clear, pure piece of paper again, right? So if you have sex before marriage, if you hug before marriage, if you whatever the standard was, right? If you kiss before marriage, you too are going to be just like that dirty piece of gum or that wrinkled wallpaper, nope, paper. Like you're never going to be the same again. Truth is, and we live with that. Even women who grow up and they don't have sex before marriage, but maybe like, oh my gosh, we might have thought something wrong, or oh my gosh, we might have, you know, been responsible for some man sinning somewhere. Like we carry around that guilt, and it affects us even after our marriage. So the idea or the idea that our body is dangerous, right? So that is so you caused a man to sin because your skirt was too short or your um shirt was too low, or like we are as women we were told that we are responsible for our own bodies, and we're also responsible for the men that we encounter, whether it is in church, whether it's our partner, whether it's in the in public, in the community. Like we have all this responsibility. Not true, right? But we hold it in, like we feel that guilt, that pain, like somehow I am dangerous because maybe I wore the wrong kind of stockings with my, skirt or whatever. How dare you wear fishnets, right? Okay. Um, or maybe the environment where you felt watched or accountable. We talked a little bit about that, right? So you are accountable for the man's actions. You are accountable for his if he looks at you lustfully or if he looks at you in the wrong way, it must be something that you're doing. We just take that in. But the truth is, and we talked about this too. These thoughts, these feelings do not disappear when you're married. And a lot of times they're even emphasized in the church and with those people around us. Okay, well now you're married, but you better watch out what you wear to church. You better watch out what you say because you could cause a man to stumble. Not true. That is not your responsibility. Well, there are studies that have shown that many married Christian women feel guilty during sex, even within their marriage, even after doing everything right. That is how deep this goes. There was a huge survey of people who were influenced by books like I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and many of them said they walked away feeling tainted or like their worth had been damaged. That kind of belief doesn't just stay in your teenage years. It follows you clean into adulthood. So, over the next few weeks, we're going to have lots of amazing conversations. I have met so many amazing men and women who are going to talk about all different aspects. We're going to have conversations that most women have never really had the space to have. And these are not surface level conversations. These are real stories, real impact, and real healing. My One of my guests we're going to have is Dr. Ashley Hudson, and she will be on next week. And she is a doctor. Obviously, she has a doctorate. She did a dissertation with about purity culture and the effects that sex has on your marriage. Um, and one of the things that she said to me that I just thought was just so incredibly good. Um, was that when you get married, you should marry your best friend, right? You're marrying the person that you trust and that you can like put down all your berries with, and you should be able to go and explore. She described the intimacy in your marriage as a playground, right? You get to go with your best friend and go to the playground and do all the different things that you need to do. And I just thought that that was I'm a visual person, so I just thought that was such a great visual that best friend, you're able to put down some of the guard and work through some of that thing, and you can just go and be on the intimate playground. Cheryl Christopher is another person that I interviewed, and man, her story, you are not going to want to miss her story. She was raised in India, and she never wanted to get married. She wanted to just stay single, not have kids, become a psychiatrist, and just do but she didn't want to disgrace her family. family created an arranged marriage for her. And she said, Lisa, men in India care about, can you keep a good home? Can you have children? And can you have sex with me whenever I want you to? There is no dating where you go to coffee and you like explore your interests because really they don't care. As long as you can do those three things, they're happy. And, here you have this extremely intelligent woman who is going into this marriage wanting so much more. And her story is so phenomenal. So look for that in a couple weeks. It is heartbreaking and enduring and all the things that you want in a good story. Sandra and her husband James, also I interviewed them, and they, have such a unique story. They talked about um how they were in college and they were living together because just financially that was the way to do it. And they decided they were going to eventually get married. They were engaged. And so they wanted to get married in her mom's church. And the pastor of her mom said, you cannot be living together anymore until you get married. And so they separated until the wedding and it devastated them financially. They started in bankruptcy. One of the things that James said that I just thought was really good, and I touched a little bit on already, is that um, he he was with the good old boys, right? He was raised in high school. They were looking at porn. They were talking about negatively about women. They were lusting after cute girls, and within the church system, they were still considered good, right? And where Sandra had all the pressure of that we talked about earlier, that oh my gosh, I have to be the keeper of man's eyes and his, abilities on top of my own. And she just talk about how that guilt entered into their marriage and what happened and how, he ended up having an affair and what that looked like. It is just such an incredible, fascinating story. I know you're not going to want to miss that one either. So these are just a few conversations that I've had. In the next 6 or 7 weeks, we're going to have many, many more, and it's just going to be so incredibly good. But the thread that's running through all of these is how deep these messages shape the way that women see themselves, their bodies, and worth. And what does this even matter, right? Because whether we realize it or not, what we do about ourselves reflects our ultimate happiness on this world, but it reflects the way that we talk to our kids, we respond to their questions about their bodies and about sex, the way that we handle their curiosity in that. We are either passing them shame or we are creating something different. This series is not about tearing anything down. I know that I've talked a little bit about Christianity and talked a little bit about, but this is not about that. This is truly about um, understanding, healing, and giving you space to think for yourself. And if anything, this episode made you feel seen, you're going to want to see what's coming up next. Tune in next Monday for Dr. Hudson, who's going to talk a little bit about the playground and some of the other things having to do with culture and about sex in our marriage. And the week following weeks, you can go to Shackle Moms Alliance on Facebook and no, not Facebook. YouTube and Spotify and listen to this and the others. I hope that you'll really join us because you are gonna be blown away by the stories, the memories, and you're just gonna I just really feel like every woman needs to hear this, whether they were raised in a Christian home or not, because we need to be more empowered than we are.